Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you thought you knew about evil. The year was 1918. The First World War had just ended. Blood still stained the European soil, and in the silence that followed, something far darker was already beginning to stir. The Allied forces made one fatal decision. They blamed Germany for everything, every death, every destroyed city, every shattered life. And they demanded payment, not just in money, but in humiliation. The penalty they imposed was equivalent to 93,000 tons of pure gold. Germany wouldn't finish paying until 2010, but by then, it would be far, far too late. In 1920, world leaders gathered in Brussels, Belgium. They spoke of economics, of rebuilding, of peace. But beneath their polite conversations, empires were collapsing. The Russian Empire had already fallen in 1917. The Ottoman Empire was crumbling. The German Empire was in ruins. And from those ruins, something monstrous was about to emerge. The shadows gather. As the 1920s unfolded, most people tried to forget the horrors of war. They wanted normalcy, safety. But in the darkness of post-war Europe, three men were rising to power. Men who didn't want peace. Men who wanted blood. In Italy, a man named Mussolini seized control through fear and violence. In Asia, Japan's military leaders dreamed of an empire built on conquest. And in Germany, a failed artist was nursing a rage that would consume the world. His name was Adolf Hitler. Born in Austria in 1889, he had once dreamed of painting beautiful things. But when the art schools rejected him, something inside him broke. He joined the German army during World War I. He fought, he bled, he won medals for bravery. And when Germany surrendered, he never forgave them. By 1928, Hitler had formed the Nazi Party. It started small, just angry men in beer halls. But anger spreads like a disease. In January 1933, at age 44, Hitler became Germany's chancellor. Within months, he had banned all opposition parties. He declared himself dictator, and then he started killing. Anyone who opposed him, anyone who questioned him, anyone who stood in his way, they disappeared in the night. And those who remained learned very quickly to stay silent. He expanded Germany's military by 5 times. He made every German citizen train for war. And through hypnotic speeches that echoed across massive rallies, he convinced an entire nation that they were the master race, superior, destined to rule. Mussolini watched and copied every move in Italy. The Pact with Darkness. August 1939. Hitler made a move that shocked the world. He signed the Non-Aggression Pact with Soviet Russia, his ideological enemy. Why? Because he needed his eastern border secure for what came next. And what came next was hell. September 1st, 1939. The world stopped breathing. German tanks rolled into Poland from the west. Russian soldiers invaded from the east. Poland fought desperately, but you can't fight enemies on both sides of your borders. Within weeks, Poland was divided like a carcass between predators. Hitler lied to the world. He claimed he only wanted German territories back. He promised he would stop. The world wanted to believe him. They were fools. When Hitler's armies smashed into France, Britain issued an ultimatum: withdraw by 11 a.m. or face war. Hitler didn't even respond. By noon, the world was burning. 2 sides, 1 nightmare. The Axis powers formed: Germany, Italy, and Japan, 3 nations united by fascist dreams of conquest. Against them stood the Allies: Britain, France, and eventually the Soviet Union and United States. But this wasn't like the First War. This war brought new horrors: strategic bombing that turned entire cities into ash, tanks that crushed everything in their path, and for the first time in human history, nuclear fire. Between 70 and 100 million people would die. Let that number sink into your soul. 100 million human beings erased from existence. And hidden in the shadows of this war was something even more sinister: Hitler's final solution. 6 million Jewish men, women, and children systematically hunted, imprisoned, and murdered in concentration camps. The Holocaust wasn't a side effect of war. It was intentional, calculated, industrial-scale evil. The first fatal mistake. December 7th, 1941. A date that lives in infamy. Japanese bombers appeared over Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, like dark angels of death. Within hours, they had devastated America's Pacific Fleet. Japan thought this attack would intimidate the United States into staying neutral. Instead, they awoke in something terrible. America entered the war with the full force of its industrial might, and it wanted revenge. The second fatal mistake. Hitler made a promise to Russia: we won't fight each other. But Hitler was a liar, and in 1941, he broke that promise. German armies poured into Soviet Russia by the millions. They advanced deeper and deeper, conquering city after city until they reached the gates of Moscow itself. Victory seemed certain. Then, winter came. The Russian winter doesn't just freeze your body, it freezes hope. German soldiers, unprepared for temperatures that could kill in minutes, began to die by the thousands. Their tanks wouldn't start, their weapons froze, and the Russian soldiers, they kept coming. Hitler had delayed his invasion to help Mussolini in North Africa. That 2-month delay cost him everything. By the time his armies reached Moscow, it was too late. They would never take the Russian capital. The tide had turned. The world pushes back. By 1942, the seemingly invincible Axis powers began to crack. Germany suffered devastating defeats at El Alamein in Egypt and Stalingrad in Russia, a battle so brutal that over 2 million soldiers died in the frozen ruins of a single city. America unleashed its fury on Japan, island by island, battle by bloody battle. Each victory brought them closer to the Japanese homeland. The Allies liberated France. They pushed into Germany from the west while Russia crushed them from the east. Hitler's empire was collapsing. April 30th, 1945, in a bunker deep beneath Berlin. As Russian soldiers fought above his head, as the walls shook with explosions, Adolf Hitler put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The man who wanted to conquer the world died hiding like a rat underground. Germany surrendered within days. But Japan refused to quit. The day the sun fell twice. August 6th, 1945, 8:25 a.m. The city of Hiroshima went about its mourning. People walked to work, children played. Then, a single American bomber appeared in the sky. One bomb fell. In an instant, 70,000 people simply ceased to exist, vaporized. Another 70,000 would die slowly from radiation poisoning in the weeks that followed. Japan still didn't surrender. August 9th, Nagasaki. Another bomb. Another 80,000 dead in a flash of atomic fire. Finally, Japan surrendered. The war was over. The aftermath. Germany was carved into pieces, divided among the victors like spoils of war. Japan fell under American and Russian occupation. Mussolini was executed by his own people and hung upside down in a public square. Between 180 and 200 million people, soldiers and civilians, had died in 6 years of horror. Entire cities were erased. Families were destroyed. Empires fell. And from the ashes, the United Nations was born, giving the 5 victorious powers, Britain, America, France, China, and Russia, permanent veto power over global affairs. The same nations that dropped nuclear bombs now controlled global peace. The British Empire, bankrupted by war, began to dismantle with colonies. India and Pakistan gained independence. African and Asian nations broke free from centuries of European control. World War II officially ended on September 2, 1945, exactly 6 years after it began. It proved something terrifying about humanity. Given the right circumstances, ordinary people will commit extraordinary evil. They'll follow madmen into hell. They'll murder their neighbors. They'll build machines designed for nothing but death. The question that should haunt us all is this: could it happen again? Are we watching new dictators rise right now, feeding their people the same lies, the same hate, the same promises of greatness? History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it rhymes, and the melody playing today sounds disturbingly familiar. The dead can't warn us anymore, so I'm warning you instead. Pay attention. Remember,